Hey everybody, Doug here. Before we get going on this week's episode of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which I think you're really going to dig, I have a quick announcement for you. In case you missed it, we are now putting bonus content on our Instagram page. So head on over to Nostalgia Marcanum and follow us there to see those. There's going to be one for every episode. The first one was with our Rugrats episode. Then there's one there for the Beatles now. And there'll be one there every week following with little tidbits, anecdotes, or factoids that I thought were interesting, but for whatever reason didn't make it into the body of the main episode. So please check those out there and get ready for this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to Nostalgia Marcanum. I'm your host, Doug Lief. Each episode of this podcast, we'll look back on the movies, TV, games, people, and phenomena that we still love talking about all these years later, and ask ourselves why these bits of pop culture still enchant us today. This week, we'll be revisiting...
You have spent over $3,000. You're grounded. You are all grounded. How could you steal from me?
Well, now, they didn't really steal. They borrowed. They were just following your irresponsible example.
Oh, shut up, Kenny. I am in deep shit.
Quit your job. Get out while you can.
I'm an embezzler. They're gonna throw me in prison.
Nah, the judge will probably go easy on you, considering you're a minor.
I'm not gonna give up. We'll just economize. I'll keep working. I'll work overtime if I have to. A few more paychecks, I'll be able to put it back and no one's gonna know, right? I'm innocent.
Released in 1991, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead did not set the world on fire upon initial release, but has really gained a cult following over the years. I'm very excited to be talking about it because this is my first time watching it, and I know our guests really love this movie and it's been a big part of their lives. So first, to reintroduce our guests that you've met before, it is the bestest producer and co-host I could ask for, my wife, Ami Lief.
Hello.
And returning champion, the pride of the West Side Comedy Theater. And please go hire him for his teaching at Rich Baker Coaching. Welcome back to the podcast, Rich Baker.
Thanks for having me, as always. Appreciate it.
So, Rich, you were the one who suggested this topic, and as soon as Amy found out about it, she was like, I got to get in on that. So I'll start with you, Rich. Tell us about your nostalgic memories of this movie and why you picked it.
I was so excited that, excuse me, I'm so excited, Amy, that you're here. Because I think at some point in our history together, we've actually quoted this movie to each other, I think. I don't know.
That's quite possible. I think in my history of talking to all people, I have probably quoted this movie.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's so quotable. Like, you know, in the 90s, there were these movies that were just so well written that you could just, and well acted, that you could quote the heck out of them. Like So I Married an Axe Murderer and Tommy Boy. And I think Don't Tell Mom Babysitter's Dead is 100% the same. It just, it was an HBO darling, and so HBO was kind of my gateway to a lot of my media. So I would just watch it over and over and over, and I never got tired of it, and I still watch it as an adult.
Aim, how about you? Tell me where this movie fits in your past.
I don't remember my first experience watching it, but I do just remember what, like, called me to it. Like, wait, you said it came out in 91?
Yeah.
So I would have been 11. So she was 17. Christina Applegate was 17 in the movie. So I think it was just this, like, glamour, what word am I looking for?
Glimmering?
Glamorous?
Glamorous, like, lifestyle of a teenager. Like, she gets to go to work, and she has this experience with this boy that she dates, and it was just kind of like this, that's cool, I want to do that when I get older and bigger. So yeah, I can't tell you like my first or any experiences. I don't have any memories of watching it. I just remember like it was one of those movies I watched all the time.
Yeah, I obviously, again, I mentioned this is my first time seeing it. I remember the marketing for it at the time, and for whatever reason, the marketing at the time just didn't speak to me. And I think a large part of that, and we'll get to it, is the commercials for it were all just like, the dishes are done, man. And that was it. Mm-hmm. And it was, so I thought it was this like slacker comedy, sort of, you know, the cat's away, the mouse will play. And that's part of it. But I was very surprised to watch this and see that the movie, in fact, the bulk of the movie is not that. and it's something very different. We used to do this thing, Amy and I, when we were going to watch a movie that one of us had seen and the other had not, where we would ask the other one, what do you think this movie is, without having actually watched it. And then we would see how close the prediction was to reality. So I remember doing this with Cocktail specifically,
right.
where she asked, like, oh, what do you think the Tom Cruise Cocktail movie was about? And I was like, well, clearly it's about this guy who's a trick bartender, and at the end he's got to win the big trick bartending competition because it's a fucking 80s movie, and that's what's supposed to happen. And
Sure.
it's not.
No.
That is not what happens in that movie at all.
No.
And I wish we had done that for this movie, because I would have been so dead wrong about what this movie is. I mean, basically, like, you got Working Girl in the middle of my slacker comedy.
Yep.
And I was so surprised. Like, the bulk of it, it's like Melanie Griffith, that movie.
Yeah.
And I know Risky Business was cited as an influence, but I saw much more of Working Girl in this.
Well, sure.
Because, there was so much more going on than I expected. But we'll get into all of that. Rich, where do you want to start talking about this one? It's so weird.
I think I'll start by just kind of piggyback off what Amy was saying. It's just this idea that, like, I'm 11 or 12 years old or whatever, 10 years old, and I'm seeing, these kids, run their own household. And, it was different than Home Alone, which was more like a zany cartoon. This was like, oh, they actually, like, pulled together and created stuff. So, like, looking back at it, I get it, because the director, I guess we can start with the director, is also the same director as Bill and Ted, which was a movie that I absolutely loved.
Yeah, I thought this was well directed. I felt like the movie was almost like, I want to see what this movie looks like if it had been directed by Joe Dante or Savage Steve Holland, who did One Crazy Summer and Better Off Dead. Like, there's some of that DNA in there. There's some really, like, weird zany stuff, and I almost wish, like, Herrick had gone farther in that direction with some of the weirder things. Like, the cartoon opening is very One Crazy Summer. The weird clown dog where she works briefly, has that same tone, and so does, like, the way the babysitter goes from, like, nice old lady to, like, rolled doll monster. Again, I felt like more in tune with those directors.
Be good, everybody. Bye. Bye. Take care of each other.
All right, you little maggots, now line up. Time to go over the rules.
Excuse me? Are you serious?
You can't run a tight ship without rules. Now move!
Amy, were you a Bill and Ted's fan as well?
I remember enjoying it, yeah. Not quite like the level of nostalgia that I have for this movie, but definitely.
I did love Bill and Ted, for sure. That was when I watched a bunch. And not only did he direct that, he directed Critters. He went on to direct The Mighty Ducks. Like,
sure. You
can see, like, there is kind of, like, he has a certain sensibility that does come through in his different films, for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the animation that it starts with, because I had just completely forgotten about the animation part until this last rewatch. I don't know how it escaped me, but I was like, I forgot that movies even used to do that.
The one that came to mind first when I saw that was City Slickers. I remember that opens with a lot of this, like, just cartoon stuff over the credits.
Yeah. Doesn't one of the vacation movies start with animation of some kind? Or no, I don't know.
It's maybe
something like that.
I think the original one does, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't even remember what the animation was for this movie. Honestly, we watched it like 2 days ago.
It's the babysitter, like, just walking around being cranky, sort of, for 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
And not a lot happens in it. It's just sort of, well, this movie sets a tone. Again, talking about, like, expectations and, like, where the movie actually went. I thought, obviously, I knew she was going to die. It's in the title, but I thought that more of the movie was going to be dealing with, like, the farcical consequences of her death, like trying to evade discovery by the authorities, and that, like, at the end of the movie, maybe that would catch back up with them. And it really doesn't. It's just, she dies and now they're on their own, and that's it. There's no, inquiry into where she went, none of that.
Yeah.
I think that comes in the sequel, because the mom is obviously very concerned about that.
Sure.
At the end of the movie.
What happened to her?
Yeah.
Yeah. The mom who, I don't know. What do you think of Mrs. Crandall, by the way?
I have a lot of issues with Mrs. Crandall.
Okay, go.
She barely checks in with her kids. She disappears for like months. She didn't interview this babysitter before the day that she was going to leave. That's my biggest issue.
For like 2.5 months, too.
I mean, yeah. And obviously, like, the house is a mess. They're saying a lot about this mother.
Yeah, she's not the best, but she's doing her best for a 37-year-old.
That's what she said.
Yeah, so she started early then.
Yeah, I did the math, by the way. The actress was actually 47 when she shot it.
Okay.
So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which made more sense.
I wonder how old Christina Applegate would have been. Probably about 20.
Probably.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was Married with Children was still on the air, I think, at this point. So she was still in the
very much
middle
so.
of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was a big role for her. This was like her, we can take her seriously. She can actually act.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I want to pull over the car for a minute and talk about how great she is.
Yeah.
Because she's awesome in this movie, and I think she does not get a lot of credit or the credit she's due for what a good comedic actress she is.
Yeah.
And like, the proof is, go watch Anchorman, where she has to go toe-to-toe with, like, some of the funniest people ever and hold her own in that movie, and she totally does. Like, she's up against Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, and just, she's a major just force in that movie. And here it's the same thing. It's like, you can tell she has this great sense of timing, and yet I find her character extremely lovable. Like, I just was like, I wanted to root for her so much throughout the movie, and that's all a credit to her.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, you have to be that magnetic personality because, like, Rose falls in love with her so fast. And just like, I'm all in with this girl, like, right away. And I think, if the actress didn't have the charisma that Christina Applegate showed, that it wouldn't be believable.
And it was just luck of the draw that it ended up being her anyway. That I think originally they talked about Renota Wider.
Yeah, but...
Renona Wider.
Adela Dazeem.
Adela Dazeem. Winona Ryder. From Beetlejuice and such. That she was going to be that character. And I actually think she would have done a great job as well. I could totally see it. But yeah, it was just an issue of like the rights of the movie getting moved around from studio to studio, and then eventually it kind of fell to this studio that had a relationship to Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy, who then I guess said, "Oh well, let's get Christina to do it. She'd be perfect."
Yeah,
and I think the movie's so much better, obviously, for having her in it.
Oh yeah, and as long as we're talking about Christina Applegate, let's talk about how in every single scene, whatever she is wearing, she is rocking the hell out of it.
Well, you expect her to, right? She's got to be a
Well,
fashion expert.
Yeah, well, plot-wise, I mean, they set it up from the beginning that she's shopping, and then she, like, picks out her clothes for that first day of work. I mean, she's going to save the day eventually based on, like, the choices that they're making at the beginning of the movie.
Well, she makes there's a couple of, like, clothes-changing montages. So she has a lot to choose from, for sure.
And she builds things from her mother's closet. She somehow makes it work.
Yeah.
Her business clothes. Yeah, there were a lot of outfits I remember thinking, like, I would want to wear that.
I was going to say, for like, a lot of really outlandish early 90s fashion that's in the movie, she always looks great.
Yeah.
And kind of timeless.
Yeah. This movie is a great, historical mark for, like, what did people dress like at a very specific time when the 80s were, like, almost done and the 90s were, like, just starting?
Yeah, you could almost fit an entire decade between 1989 and 1993 in terms of what music and style and everything else was. Because, like, those dudes that hang out with Kenny, like, every single one of them looks like the bass player for Pearl Jam.
Right? Yeah.
I think at one point there's, like, a guy going up the stairs, and then there's, like, tears in his jeans, like, right under his ass. Like, it's
Right. Like anyone ever wore that.
I had holes in my jeans,
Like
not
under
there. They were in the knees like a regular person. I was sort of like, the movie really just kicks into high gear pretty quickly. It's just like, yep, I'm leaving. I'm going away. See you later, kids. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And we're kind of off to the races.
That I looked at the time code. The babysitter dies 12 minutes into the movie. And by that point, we know enough about the kids. We know enough about the mom, the situation, like the friends. We've got all, like, they did a really good job of putting a lot of, like, exposition in a very short amount of time and making it entertaining.
Yeah, and they set up the money issue pretty quickly as well, that's going to be the driving force of the plot. Is like, literally, they don't have money to eat because it was buried with the dead babysitter.
Yeah.
And they have no one else they can call. So,
And they really just don't want their mother to come back that bad that she's willing to spend her entire summer working.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could. In theory, you're right. Just call her in Australia and say, "There's been a development." But no, they'd rather have their free time and having pizza flipping contests.
I don't know that I would have made that same choice.
Oh no, there would have been some adult I reached out to.
So I mean, I probably would have called my mom. I didn't want to wake up at like 5:30 every morning and then sit in traffic, work all day,
commit various forms of fraud.
Are you saying
fraud,
that your
really?
late teens were not a zany 80s comedy?
Not this comedy.
Yeah.
Maybe a different one. And I really want to talk a little bit about Josh Charles, who plays her love interest.
Brian.
What a charming guy this is. I know I've seen him in other stuff. His big thing lately is that he's a major character on The Good Wife, which I've never watched, but he's in like 100 and some odd episodes of it. So he must be important.
He was in one of my favorite sitcoms of all time, Sports Night.
Ah, okay. He's a Sorkin guy. Right,
yeah.
That makes sense.
He was in that early Sorkin thing. I think he may have done a little bit on The West Wing, but I don't think he was ever regular.
Remember these things? They're great. Come on, bounce with me.
No, come on, I feel stupid. We are too old to bounce.
Oh, come on. Bouncing is an ageless pastime to me.
Man, come on.
Would you feel more comfortable if I started bouncing first?
No.
Yeah, I just love her relationship with him so much in this movie
good.
because, like, she is this, like, luminously, like, beautiful figure, and, like, especially after, like, Married with Children, just, like, this is a sex symbol in, like, big blinking letters. And here she's just, like, despite all of that, like, she's just enamored with this dude who spends his days cleaning up, hot dog leftovers because he's just charming and nice. And, like, that's just really gratifying to watch.
And he's willing to, like, accept her, that, like, she's secretive about where she works, and he's willing to, like, look past that, which is interesting, and I don't know that I would be so, like, forgiving. She's very adamant about, like, I do not want to tell you where I work, obviously, because of plot reasons, but, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, and, I mean, the first date he asks her on is to go to the beach and see the grunion, which, I did not even know what that was as a kid. And I just thought it was so cool. Like, oh, these teenagers can just get to the beach whenever they want, living in landlocked Fort Worth, Texas. I was like, that was really cool.
Yeah, you didn't know the joy of being able to come up and watch fish spawning on the beach.
I did not.
Yeah.
Again, this is part of, like, how it, like, glamorized. I thought of the word I was missing earlier. This glamorized, like, dating. And, like, it was going to be romantic. And, like, now you see things and it's, like, straight to, like, the sex. And it's that this movie didn't think about that at all. Well, it sort of did with the coworker.
Yeah.
Yeah, with John Getz.
Right. But not the boyfriend. So they kept it appropriate for PG for the teenagers.
Yeah.
It was sweet and nice.
Have you ever seen the grunion? Have you ever actually gone to a beach and watched that?
No, not at all.
I do remember going to beaches when it was red tide. Because the red tide plankton or whatever they are bioluminescent. So if you go at night, like, it's a light show at the beach.
Nice.
I remember doing that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Not on a date.
That's how Doug would have done it if he had the opportunity to ask out Christina Applegate.
There it is.
Sure, why not? There's still a chance.
You can
right?
go work at Clown Dog Burger or whatever
Yeah.
it's called.
Clown Dog. That dude, the dude who runs the Clown Dog is a human cartoon, and I'm totally there for it.
Yeah.
How's the scrub-a-dub-dubbing going? Now, you're almost doing that correctly, but you forgot one very big thing.
What, not enough cleanser?
Nope. Forgot to put on a happy face. Next, you get to scrape the spitballs off the drive-thru window with a really fun squeegee.
Doug, I know you would know this, Amy. I don't know if you've seen UHF, but that guy really gave me, like, Weird Al Yankovic from UHF vibes in his delivery.
A little bit, yeah. The sort of over-eagerness. Plus, he's got that mop of curly hair.
Yeah.
I see that. He actually kind of reminded me of the other guy from UHF, his best friend.
Sure.
He co-runs the station with.
Yeah.
So that's there. And that movie also it's a little zanier and weirder than this in terms of its sensibilities. But like I said, there's some of that DNA in here, and I kind of liked when that bubbled to the surface. They're like, okay, we're gonna shift into a different comedic space for a while.
Yeah.
I really like that. But that dude. I feel like that guy made a meal out of that part. Like, if you look at his lines on paper, they're not nearly as interesting as the way he says them. So kudos to that actor.
Yeah, he pulled a what's his name from Silence of the Lambs. Like, not a lot of screen time, but really made an impression.
Yep, the clown dog dude and Sir Anthony Hopkins.
That's they're like the same, thing in cinema history.
Like peanut butter and jelly. We want to talk about Kenny a little bit.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Kenny?
He goes on. He has the kind of the biggest arc in the movie too.
There's so many things. Like, it's endearing. Like, he's like this bad boy, but he still like cares about his family. And like when the brother falls off the roof and he's like, oh man, I forget exactly what he says. I'm sure Rich remembers, but
I should have been there, man. I should have been reading him Green Eggs and Ham or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little unclear, like, how old he is exactly.
He's got to be younger than Christina Applegate, for sure.
I assume that they are Irish twins and that he is 16, but I don't know that there's any evidence of that specifically in the movie.
Yeah, they never come out and say it, but they're pretty clear she's the oldest at 17. Yeah, and I love that his like arc of becoming a chef is sort of, it just sort of like kind of just sneaks up on you that that's what he's doing, because for a while he's just like trying to make waffles by watching Julia Child.
Yeah,
and from that, all of a sudden he's like, I'm making canapes. You know?
Yeah, he has got a bit of a fast learning curve, but I forgive it because I just again, like Amy, I just love him so much. And it's funny because he starts out as this guy who's very parasitic, right? He just takes and takes, and the thing that he gravitates toward is feeding people, right? Giving, nourishing others, and it's like, and then of course the girl who wouldn't give the time of day is now like into him, and he definitely has the biggest arc, absolutely.
He talks like he has no future at the beginning of the movie. Like, yep, I'm just going to sit on a roof and drink beers with my friends forever.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to bother with school or any of that. And then by the end, it's like he figures out, no, I do have like talent and a purpose in life. And that was a really just gratifying part of the movie to watch him kind of grow up.
Yeah. Well, he says something like, I think I'm going to finally graduate, which is why like I was confused about the aging because she's graduated. So it's a little bit like maybe he is older and he's still living at, like, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, he seems totally comfortable with a gun during that famous skeet shooting scene.
And I don't want your friends hanging around my house.
Right.
And mow the lawn today, and don't forget to do the dishes, okay?
Fine.
I'll do the dishes.
Go! Stop! One more, Chaka. One more. Wait. Hey! Down to the shot.
Dishes are done, man. Cleans them down to the shot.
Yeah.
The dishes are done.
Yeah.
The dishes are done, man.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, I do like that line, even though the trailer did use that line to make it sound like the movie was going to be different than it was. But I like it for what it is.
No, it's a good line and it's a good delivery. But yeah, it does. It just gives the mistaken impression that's all this movie was going to be. It's going to be, the parents are gone. This movie's going to have a climax with a giant raging party at the house. And then mom's going to come home and see it. And it's like, they don't have a giant rager. They have a black tie event.
Yeah.
It's like the most sedate party possible. And then mom comes home and is, what's all this?
Yeah.
Successful people in limousines.
I do want to talk about the scene where they get into like their mom and dad type fight where he's I cook and I clean and I do everything and you don't appreciate me.
Yes.
I mean, that was like got to be one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that is straight out of it, like a sitcom or even like I don't know, probably like an early scene in Kramer versus Kramer or something.
Yeah.
It's just such a classic like domestic dispute.
I went ahead and I fed the kids. I worked all day in that casserole.
Sorry.
You haven't even said how nice the house looks. You're off at the office all day doing interesting office things. I'm stuck here cooking and cleaning and mowing, helping Melissa with her fastball, being a role model for Zach, spending quality time with Walter, doing your party shit. You've got the car and you don't even take me anywhere anymore. And when was the last time we went out to dinner together, huh? You know what? I'm sick and tired of not being appreciated.
I appreciate you.
Eat shit.
Yeah, I like that. I do want to talk. We should talk about her workplace, this GAW fashion.
Oh, we got to start with Carolyn.
Before we get off of Kenny,
yeah,
I do just want to call out he is in my other favorite babysitting movie, Adventures in Babysitting, which I think we're going to have to do an episode on that.
Put
as
a pin
well.
in that, sure. Yeah,
there was, I guess, some obsession with babysitting in the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
Kids have to watch supervise themselves. That's Amy's favorite genre.
Yeah,
there it is.
Right.
All right,
and Babysitters Club.
And you're right.
You put the word babysitter in a movie, I'm there.
Okay. Well, I think you've named all three.
Yeah.
So that's it. So GAW, where she goes to work, is populated basically by three major characters. Four. You've got Rose, who she works for.
Mm-hmm.
I kept staring at this actress going like, she was on LA Law or something, right? I couldn't figure out where I knew her from. She's Dolores from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, look, she just looks and sounds so different in this movie that I was, totally did not recognize her at all.
A true character actress, right? That can just absorb herself in the role to where you don't even recognize her in two different movies.
Right.
And she was also in Blade Runner.
Who's she in Blade Runner?
That's not one of my movies that I've seen more than like twice, so I'm not sure, but I'll
don't
find
worry
it
about it. Y'all can Google it and see who she is in Blade Runner. I have no memory of that. The only females that I remember are Sean Young and Daryl Hannah. I don't know where she fits in, but yeah. So you have her. You have David Duchovny in a small early pre-X-Files role.
Yeah, I think it was one of his first movie roles too.
Yeah, I think there was some hesitancy to cast him. I think because of that, he was at the time unproven.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get John Getz, who plays a damn good sleazebag.
Oh yeah.
I played some cello in my high school orchestra.
Oh. When a woman gets older, she matures, she ripens, juices start flowing.
And for you, sir?
White wine spritzer. This will give us a chance to break down some of those corporate barriers.
Right.
And by the end of lunch, we'll probably be sharing our intimate histories, stories of our first time. Next thing you know, we'll be sharing a cigarette in post-coital bliss.
Are you talking about us having sex?
Hey, hold on, slow down. You're moving too fast for me. But if that's an area of interest to you, it can be arranged. And if it doesn't, I was kidding. Rosemary chicken's delicious here. Very tender.
No, he only has, I think, maybe 3 scenes in the movie total, maybe 4. But I mean, you definitely remember him. He's like Pepe Le Pew, but like even douchier.
Yeah, he plays a more subdued version of this in The Fly, where he also plays, kind of a skeevy guy. But that guy goes on like a redemption arc throughout that movie to where he's, kind of heroic at the end. This dude, yeah, like you said, Pepe Le Pew without the charm. He's so gross. He just feels to me like if you were to put together a video to try and train employees about sexual harassment, you would show them clips from this movie.
Amy, have you ever actually met a guy this sleazy that you know of? Like,
other than me.
No, but I believe it's a great example of the work. I'm sure this guy exists in a lot of work.
Oh, I'm sure. Have you ever encountered anything like
this sleazy? I'm sure it's happened. I can't recall it right this minute.
Okay. But you've never been on the other end of that?
Have I been the sleaze?
No. Have you been
Yes,
have you been sleazed upon?
I'm sure I have. Maybe not to that degree.
Yeah.
But you got to feel bad for Rose. I mean, she's so sweet. Like, she doesn't deserve that at all.
Yeah, it's almost sad because she otherwise seems like a fairly, put together, sharp, observant person, and she just does not see this guy for what he is. And I think it's sort of implied that maybe she's getting a little older and maybe her options are dwindling, and so it's like, well, this guy's showing interest, so he's winning the sweepstakes. And,
but to her credit, like once she knows, she doesn't like try and excuse. She's just like, oh, okay, full 180.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. She does not try to excuse his behavior once she figures it out. Yeah, she's off the Gus train for sure.
Yeah. And that's like looking back, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty empowering like thing to give a female character in a movie that long ago. Like,
yeah, and I like the relationship too that they set up between Rose and Swell. Like, I think that's a good, powerful like dynamic in the workplace that isn't often found. Yeah. This like strong female lead, and she's not competitive. Well, the competitiveness comes from the receptionist, but like I feel like they set it up to have a really good relationship between the two. And I wonder like if they're also saying something about Swell's relationship with her mother and how maybe this woman is more of the role model and kind of what she would aspire to be more of rather than her mom. But
yeah,
well, that does feed into the overall theme of mom sucks, because like there's
that's
that
the tagline. I think.
Well, kind of. I mean, like within the span of like what 2 months or so, she's like transformed the entire house. Like this fuck up son has completely turned his life around.
Yeah, and
like it's like as a family unit, they've never been tighter or doing better than when Sue Ellen was in charge.
Yeah. So
there's a little bit of that, like, yeah, Mom, I'm succeeding now that you're off my, out of the picture.
Yeah.
But the relationship between Rose and Sue Ellen is definitely one of the best in the movie. That mentorship that she shows, the trust she gives her, and especially when she comes to her aid at the very end of the movie and says, like, hey, I don't care that you're, 17. No one cared that you were 17. They loved your ideas.
Yeah.
And that then she supports her when she says, I'm not, she says, you can come back to work for me anyway. And she says, no, I'm going to go to college and learn more. She's like, I'll wait for you when you get back.
Yeah. You believe that these two characters will have like a lifelong, like mentorship, friendship, relationship.
Yeah, it's real nice. Their relationships, there's so many good relationships, like the brother, Kenny and her, like they're rocky, but like the whole time, like they stay together, and then by the end, they're just like really on the same team, and even the younger kids and stuff. Can we though shift real quick to talk about Carolyn, who chews the scenery, and they're given the line, talks like she's chewing her face.
That's the receptionist, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she sucks. She's so evil. And what I love about it is that like it's a good choice for a villain, because all of the criticisms and things she finds out about Sue Ellen, they're all true, right? She is a fraud. She is stealing from the company.
Yeah.
She is 17 years old. Like all of the things she's like trying to tell Rose are like, they're all correct about how Sue Ellen is doing these unethical things. But we still hate her because the only reason she's doing this is to be a tattletale, to try and, she resents that Sue Ellen jumped the ladder essentially to get ahead of her.
Well, she's just a total bitch from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing redeemable about her.
No, they give you no reason.
They set her up immediately as being this awful bitch. Yeah.
And literally everyone else in the office talks about how awful
hates
she
her
is.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will push back that I do think they gave her one redeeming moment when she's talking to Brian in the office, and Sue Ellen like sees it and backs up. She's like trying to give her brother good advice, right? We know that we don't like the advice because it's against Christina Applegate, but it's actually, she's like, no, you need to move on, buddy. You're great, And I'm like, oh, she's got a heart.
Yeah, that's true. That's the one coincidence in the movie that I think could have been, with a few gentle rewrites, you probably could have solved it. Because as it is, she meets Josh Charles at the Clown Dog, and then we only later discover that he happens to be this receptionist's younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could have found a way to have her, Christina Applegate and Josh Charles meet in a way that more organically like maybe put the Clown Dog across the street from GAW, so that when she quits there, she sees GAW, across the street and says, I'm going to go work there.
Sure. And
the reason he's working there is because his sister's across the street. You could have done something.
I just don't know that it matters that they're brother and sister. Like, that doesn't really play into the plot at all. Like, just so he doesn't end up finding out that she works there. So...
But that leads to their fight, remember? Like, when he, like, walks
She doesn't
away.
want him to...
Yeah, I feel like there could have been a better, like, fight. It doesn't make sense to me that they had to be brother and sister. Like, what is that it's solely for the purpose of them getting into an argument later?
Yeah, I think just one more rewrite could have polished off, some of these rough edges, and it would have been fine. I mean, it doesn't hurt. You go along with a movie. You just accept that coincidence and keep going.
Maybe it like existed in some other, like there were some other scenes that were cut or something that make it make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just make it not just feel like this ridiculous coincidence that of all the dudes in Los Angeles she could develop a crush on, it's the one that happens to be the younger brother of this other person she runs into.
Yeah.
There's I'm sure there's a way you could have made that coincidence more likely to happen and keep the plot pretty much the same. But we don't need to Monday morning quarterback that so much. But it was the one thing that was kind of like, there was probably a simpler solution to this equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other coworker that is just so sweet and wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember her
Kathy.
name. Kathy, the QED report.
QED
Kathy.
The person to whom she delegates everything.
Who obviously will get the job.
Yeah, did they?
Once leaves.
Of course.
I was gonna say, did they square that circle where Rose was like, "Oh, you actually were the one who did all that work. Well, you deserve a promotion."
Well, she said that she delegated it to Kathy, so she never took credit for doing the report.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rose knew that Kathy, or produced work of quality.
So
by the way, I was just gonna say that QED report like scared me for work.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how do you type that up?
Yeah.
Where do you get the data from? How do you make it look so pretty? I mean, I was like always scared, like, how am I going to make something like that when I go to an office?
And Rose reacts to it like, oh, this is a work of art. This
I need
QED
to know.
report.
Like, I think I looked up QED report like the other day.
It goes with the TPS reports from Office Space, right?
Yeah.
It's just corporate busy work nonsense.
Yeah. But Kathy.
That stuff scared me too, actually, that concept of like, oh, someday you're going to have to get a job and it's going to be pushing around complicated stuff that looks like this, and it's just nonsense. And instead I got a job doing very complicated stuff that it's probably looks like nonsense to most other people. So,
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. But also the fact that she's doing it on like 1991 computer technology, that must make doing work like that so much more cumbersome.
I just don't know how she typed it up. How did she type it? I have so many questions.
What is it even a report of?
When Rose shows Swell her computer, she says, "Here's your computer, WordStar and Lotus." And I was just like, yeah, 1990 in the house. WordStar and Lotus. I don't even know. Doug, do you remember those?
WordStar, I don't remember. I used Lotus for sure. Not that early. I think I had it Lotus for Windows 3.1.
Yeah,
because we had a machine with 3.1 in the house. My dad works in computers, and so we had and this was it was a 486 PC. Which we used Stacker on the hard drive to double it. So just to use some real old school computing terms, that like I used to know how to work with DOS. Like I had to use DOS at home. I kind of knew that, and this early version of Windows. It was a good time for trying to figure out stuff because like I was a gamer, and so when you bought software for computers like that, it was like, oh, I better learn some complicated stuff. They would tell you, oh, if it doesn't work, it's not easily compatible. You'd have to go into like code and modify things to get stuff to run. And I don't know how I got some of that stuff running at like 10 or 11 years old without my dad's help. Sometimes he helped. But
nice.
Yeah, that stuff is real. Like, thank God we have the computers we have now. That stuff was so cumbersome.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, don't tell Mom the babysitter's dead.
Should we talk about the saving the day, like the circumstances around like the companies and trouble?
You mean being right on top of that, Rose?
Well, we haven't even gotten to right on top of that, Rose. Now, I can't remember the circumstances that like they make a presentation. Oh, they're forcing like the kids to like wear uniforms, right? That's what they're pushing. and then the school board rejects it. And the
ugly
whole
uniforms.
company.
Yeah.
Ugly company. The entire company is going under because one school board said no, which is another unbelievable.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of it. And we also understand this is like not the main office. There's like a New York office or
General
something.
Apparel West.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're West.
Is there a GA?
They keep talking about New York. New York does this. New York does that. So yeah, it seems like this is a satellite place that's trying to prove itself.
Okay.
But yeah, there's definitely something weird about like, yeah, they made one presentation. The client said, I don't think so. And like people are running around on fire.
Well, in the very first scene, I don't know if you remember, but she's on the phone and she's like, we lost another client. You know, we can't afford to lose one more. So they did set that up beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah, there was definitely like a little part of me trying to go like, okay, I'm not sure I understand all of the stakes. It doesn't really matter because it's just an opportunity for Sue Ellen to shine.
Which is the best part of the movie, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, tell me why you think that's your favorite part of the movie.
Oh, it's just so fun. And she, the sparks in her head go off, or the light bulb goes off, and she starts grabbing the clothes, and she does what she does best.
Yeah.
And she just, all while being a nice person to Frank, and like...
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like everybody at work loves her. She's she takes them under her wing, and like, she's a model employee.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you catch the line at the party when they're announcing her and they say, "And our recent employee of the month, Sue Ellen"? I was like, I don't think I ever caught that before.
Yeah, she's been there for 2 months, and the second month she gets it.
Employee of the month, yeah. That's
she
how that
deserved it, I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, we hope she deserves it.
Yeah.
I mean, she got employee of the month, and she hadn't even made the presentation yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So they were banking on her.
Sure.
Everyone just liked her.
Yeah,
and that again, you bring it. That character is just exceedingly likable.
Mm-hmm.
She's part of it is just she's trying so hard against such an uphill battle and crazy odds. Like most of her family is essentially getting in her way and making things hard. She's trying to make it work with this guy while balancing her, keeping her secret. And there's the fundamental problem of like we're literally going to run out of money and not be able to eat.
Yeah.
And
she solves all of it,
right?
But in a way that's earned. It's not like a Deus Ex Machina thing where you're like, okay, they figured out all the problems. It's like she puts in the work. She uses her fashion skills, which she already had. She's like being a leader, the youngest person in a company, and like being the one like I'm setting the meeting agenda and this, that, and the other, and like being the head of the household and doing all this crazy stuff. And it's like you're rooting for her. You're like, go, Soel, go, and she does it.
I mean, that kind of comes out in that scene you mentioned earlier where she's arguing with her brother about how hard she works, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic every day to, put food on the table and all that stuff. And, like, she is. Like, that really resonates with, how hard she's working. And she's never had to really knuckle down and focus like that, right?
Yeah.
She's, this is... we don't get the sense that she's quite the slacker that Kenny is, but she's not far from that.
Yeah.
Right. So, her mom must not be the worst mom in the world if she has given Swell this level of confidence in herself and this work ethic.
Yeah.
So maybe she's an okay mom.
It's funny they only
I'm still not sold.
They only mentioned the dad twice, and it's a very quick and throwaway lines. At one point, the younger daughter says, I wish Dad was around, and the mom says, no, you don't. Just like very like, no, you don't. And then something about, we could call Dad. No, we're not going to call Dad when to solve the money problem.
Yeah, there might be one other thing in there. They mentioned he has a girlfriend or he's out of town or
something like that.
They have to deal with that because the obvious solution to their problem, if you're in their position as well, is there another adult we could call for help.
Yeah.
And we have to, for the plot to work, we have to say, no, they're totally on their own.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume, like, unless he's a total dirtbag, that he's seeing his kids, like, in some regular interval.
He wouldn't let them starve to death. He would help them in some way. But, yeah, we just have to assume he's a dirtbag. Or you could have made him dead. I mean, whatever. There's a lot of ways to get around that. I think they mentioned a couple of other relatives they theoretically could contact and don't.
Yeah.
So they did what they had to do.
Yeah. And they pull it off. The house looked amazing. They put on a goddamn fashion show. I mean, and a good one. And it was like, they nailed it. Ice sculptures and everything.
I mean, I do events for my work, and the level of like planning that goes into those things, that's not an easy task. And they, Kenny made enough food for all of the guests, which is incredible. And he has good friends too. They came through. All the friends came through.
Right, they're helping. They're waiting tables or whatever.
They're working valet, and they instantly notice that Carolyn and David Duchovny are dirtbags. I love that. That they'd like destroy the car.
Yeah.
And they talk for for 2 seconds, and they're like, it's just funny.
Do you guys have a favorite scene?
I mean, I think it was what I said earlier about when she's like saving the day and grabbing all the clothes.
Yeah.
Just when she's down in the warehouse and pulling the clothes. That scene is always
great.
Stuck with me.
I think I got to be a romantic and say it's the Grunions. Like when they we ruined the moment for the kiss, and then they go in for the kiss anyway, and you see all these like fish flopping around on their feet. It's just like, it was pretty romantic.
That's a good song. Is that the one with the song?
There's a lot of good
Only
music.
Have Eyes for You.
Yeah.
Is in that scene.
Yeah. That's the soundtrack's worth mentioning. Just in general, there's a lot of good songs on there.
There's an interesting song drop that I remembered is that there's at some point I think is when she first decides to take a little of the petty cash for herself. They drop in a song called Give Me Some Money, which is a Spinal Tap song.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting choice to go like, we're going to use this song by a fake comedy band.
Yeah.
And just play it straight. Like that felt like, again, a touch that a Savage Steve Holland might do if he had directed the movie. So that's why I was like, oh, it's there. Like some of that stuff is in there.
Hell yeah. Do you have a favorite scene, Doug?
Actually I thought one of the best scenes, it's not a favorite scene because it's a sad scene, but when Christina Applegate and Josh Charles have that fight.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really well executed. And I what I liked most about it is Christina Applegate spends a lot of the movie trying to fool people that she is older and more mature than she is. And every time she has a scene with Josh Charles, she like downshifts back into like, no, I'm a 17-year-old girl and I'm excited to go on a date with this boy I like.
Yeah.
And so it was really neat to watch her kind of go like, nope, I'm a teenager now. Oh, now I'm this mature receptionist at a big old important company. And so like I feel like when you peel that away, you're kind of seeing the real her of like she wants so badly just to be a normal teenager and not worry about all this shit and just go have fun with this guy, and she can't. And so I felt that scene was kind of like the most important scene for the movie emotionally. So that one I really connected with.
Right. Nice. And that's supposed to be like the last summer before you go to college.
Yeah.
Like that's such a bummer to think that should be what she's doing. It's just having fun and meeting boys and doing things like that. What was your summer before you went away to college? Can you imagine spending it like how she did?
Working like that? No. I don't remember. I'm sure I just bummed around and didn't do too much. I just hung around with my friends and thought like, all right, I'm going to just hang with them because, after this I'm going to college. Exactly. They're going to college and, we won't be able to do this so
real
much.
Life starts.
Right.
And she's thrust into that.
Well, and she says as much, right, when she's giving her younger siblings kind of the business, where she's like, I'm going to work and doing all this so you guys can eat, and you are sitting on the couch watching TV and having a great old time. Mm-hmm. And not that she expects them to go out and get jobs. They're like, 11 or 12 or whatever they are. Right. But it's very clear for her that like, this is a unique point in my life and I'm missing getting to have that.
And why didn't she get to go to Europe with her friends? What was the reason for that?
Her mom couldn't pay for it.
And her beau was a jerk because he invited her only to come to Australia with him and not the 5 kids.
Yeah. So she couldn't afford to send her kid elsewhere, but her boyfriend could afford to send her to Australia. So it was a bit.
And she could afford to pay this babysitter to theoretically watch them all summer. Like, that's not cheap.
That's gotta be a lot of money.
Yeah,
full time. Yeah.
Yeah. If you put pen to paper on the math of some of this, it kind of, don't worry about that.
Yeah. I don't even know. Do we even know what the mom does for a living?
Never said.
Not clear.
But it's something she can take off for 2.5 months, clearly.
Yeah.
Maybe she's a teacher.
Yeah. Principal or something. Yeah.
Maybe. Makes sense.
I guess it could be any job.
Yeah. Can we talk about like just some what I consider just like jewels of like moments, little quotes, different things like that? Because there's so many of them. One in the animation. Do you know who voices the little animated babysitter in the opening credits?
No.
Homer Simpson himself, Dan Castellaneta.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah,
and that was
obviously he's doing a very different voice.
Yeah, very different voice. But it was that was made in 1990. And, The Simpsons had just come out, so he wasn't really a big deal yet. There was just some other random voice gig. So the babysitter dies. Do you remember, like, what happens right before she dies?
She takes some. Doesn't she take... I'm trying to remember. She goes out. I thought she goes out and gives Kenny a bunch of crap. He's outside the house in a car.
Does she see Kenny smoking and she closes the door on him?
No? She never actually sees Kenny. They never have a scene together. She goes into Kenny's room when he's gone, and she starts to have a heart attack, and then barely gets out of there and looks like this. And the next time we see her, she's dead. So theoretically, Kenny's room killed the babysitter.
Like literally an Iron Maiden poster.
And boobs, I think.
Yeah, there were boobs, and there was weed, and there was a mess everywhere, and she was so shocked by that she died.
That's amazing.
When she dies, they wrap her up in a California Raisins bed sheet.
That did catch my eye. Like, what a weird detail. That like,
is that product placement? There was also a lot of Coke in the movie.
I had one of those. I had that very California Raisins. Like when she's like, I go, holy shit, I had that. Like, it was nuts. There was a lot of product placement. There was a Burger King. There was a Coca-Cola. There was a lot of things. I assume they got paid for it, but I don't know.
The notable Celeste pizza.
Oh, right.
They flip as a coin.
Yeah. Yep. You remember the inscription they write on the trunk they stuff the woman's body in?
It's something like, nice old lady inside.
Nice old lady inside died of natural causes.
Yeah. Which is, of course, what you would write if they did not die of natural causes.
Yeah. Oh, Sue Ellen's salary, I caught it and wrote it down, $37,500 a year.
That's a lot, I feel like, for that year.
In 1991, now it's not quite as low as minimum wage, but it's close.
For a senior, I think she's like a senior executive assistant.
Yeah.
She's not quite a receptionist. She's like a couple steps
she'd be earning more than... Well, I don't know what inflation, what $37,000 in 1991 would be today. But
I think $37,000 was like my starting salary for my first job after college.
Yeah,
which would have been 10 years later,
something like she was doing.
Yeah,
basically. That was a lot of years later. Yeah.
There's a throwaway line from Rose when she said, she says, "Put some cucumbers on your eyes." And so Ellen says, "Oh, I'm out of cucumbers." She goes, "Every woman over 25 needs a cucumber in the house." Yeah, I did not get that joke as a kid until later. I was like, "That's a dildo joke."
Yeah, there's definitely a few of those. They kind of like sneak by you for sure.
I think my favorite joke in the whole movie, though, is, "So, Ellen, have you ever had a 48-hour orgasm?" "No, I've never been to Santa Barbara."
Yeah,
that is brilliant. You got any one-liners that like you love that stick out?
Oh man, I've only seen it the once, so it's hard for me to pull specific lines like that. But that one, the 48-hour orgasm one, that did stand out to me. We both turned to each other like, that sounds awful. That's actually like a nightmare scenario where it's like, oh yes, that's like a monkey's paw. Oh, you want orgasms, do you? Well,
I need a doctor.
I know with Viagra, you're supposed to call a doctor if it lasts for more than 4 hours.
Oh, God.
There it is.
My mom, I mean, what's funny is like my mom, and she's since passed, but she used to say, "I'm right on top of that rose," like all the time.
Of course. That's the best line in the whole movie.
That's the best one.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing, and this is so important. Whenever we're not alone or I'm on the phone and I ask you something, doesn't matter what it is, you always say, "I'm right on top of that rose." Okay? Okay. Not at all. We'll messenger them right over. Sue Ellen, how How are the cost estimates for the superintendent coming? He needs them this afternoon.
I'm right on top of that, Rose.
It's only used 3 times, but it is so memorable every time.
Well, they definitely set that up of like, you're supposed to say this. Like, it's a great joke set up because you know it's coming back when it's, when she's in real trouble.
Yeah, it's good payback.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't remember hearing your mom say it, but I somehow feel like, this would be a movie she'd like. She had kind of a sneaky little sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell if my mom would like this or not. She would not like the fact that, like, the kids are unsupervised. Like, that kind of stuff would bug her.
Yeah, well, your mom likes movies with scenery, and this doesn't really have good scenery. Maybe she'd like the Grunions, too.
Yeah, but not so much with respect to comedies. She wouldn't care about that.
She would call it a client movie, because she'd be trying to, like, solve the problem.
Well, she really likes movies like Working Girl.
Okay.
And so there's so much of this movie is actually that.
Yeah.
That she might have liked it, but like I know, like she doesn't like Ferris Bueller's Day Off because again it's about these kids slacking. And my mom was a teacher for many years, so it probably explains why she would not be into it. And a therapist, yeah. Those are her 2 jobs. So.
I wonder like what the demographic. I guess it would be like teenagers, early 20s, like the demographic for this movie.
Oh, it's got to be people our age.
Yeah, our age now
and younger. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People who were born in the early 80s.
Yeah,
this is their movie.
100%
for sure. Because I think I read the budget was something like $10-11 million and it made like 21. So it wasn't a flop, but they wouldn't consider that a hit.
No,
it wasn't. Like I said, didn't set the world on fire.
No,
but has had this long tail.
Yeah. A couple other lines. Park it yourself, Metallica breath. Such a stupid line, but he delivers it so well. And then when Carolyn comes to Rose with the ID that finally proves Llewellyn is 17, and Rose goes, "What is it, Carolyn? Something?" So snark. And then, of course, when she tells her mom, "Hey, Mom, you've had a long day. I think you just need to go to your room." It's like, brilliant. Brilliant.
I specifically said no parties.
You weren't supposed to come home till next week.
Sorry to have messed up your plans. Who are these people? Mom, calm down. I will not calm down. Walter. What happened to Walter? I had a little accident, but everything is taken care of. I have excellent medical coverage. And we will clean up the party, okay? Now, come on, Mom. You've had a long flight, and you're cranky. I have had a very rough night. So why don't you just go upstairs and take a nap, and tomorrow morning Kenny will whip up a batch of Belgian waffles, and we'll sit down and discuss this like adults, all right? Fine. Kenny, Zach, why don't you guys go wrap up the party, okay?
Okay.
And Melissa, why don't you help Walter to bed?
All right, Mommy. I mean, swell.
I was fascinated with this fashion show. This is our second episode we recorded about something from the 90s. We did My So-Called Life not that long ago. We had to talk about some of the really weird fashion choices in that movie. But this fashion show is like, they look like they're ready for Cirque du Soleil. Like it is like some really like crazy colors and like court jester kind of patterns.
Yeah.
Right. And how they walk down the runway is really fun too. Like not your typical like stiff model. This is, way more fun.
They look like teenage kids having a good time.
Yeah, like playing
fashion,
dress
as opposed
up.
to professional models. Yeah,
right.
Just walking in the line.
Yeah.
So are they? The point was that they were going to take uniforms and make them like everyday wear.
That they were going to make them fun.
Uniforms anymore.
Like that.
Oh,
so
they were going to make them.
What happened was the kids rejected the uniforms. They set them on fire, right? Because they didn't like them, and that was Sue Ellen's thing the whole time. Is like, the kids want to wear something that makes them feel fashionable, and so that was like these are like fashionable school uniforms.
These are the uniforms that you would wear at school if you got to pick what they looked like.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I kind of took it as more like, we're not just going to do uniforms anymore. We're just going to make these like mainstream, like sell it at Macy's or whatever.
Oh, maybe that too. Sure.
I remember there at one point there was the idea got tossed around about us potentially having uniforms at our school. And I can't remember. Couldn't have been older than junior high. Might have been even elementary school when this was being talked about. And I remember, my friends and I being very against that. This is all about conformity. And it was like that Simpsons episode where like they literally like the kids, they're all blinking in unison, right? Like we were afraid that was what was going to happen. And so when this came out in this movie, I was like, it took me back to that point in my childhood. Like, yeah, man, people were really dead set against wearing stuff like that.
Yeah,
when we wear our bright neon clothes and our torn up jeans. So
I feel like kids still just want to wear what they want to wear. I'd go fight it.
All people do that.
I would fight it if they brought that to our kids' schools.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it'd set them on fire, but I'd be displeased.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time, and so it's time to ask that question. Like, why do you think it is that people have glommed onto this movie over the years? That despite it not being a huge hit when it came out, you mention this title and people's eyes light up. Like, yes, I love that movie. Why do you think it is?
I think that, similar to like It's a Wonderful Life got its second life on, TV stations showing it, that when this came out on VHS and HBO, and I think more kids saw it, that I think it more spoke to us and people our age. I don't know if people, like 10 years older than us really it hit with them or not, but like I know that a lot of people that I knew like really like this, and to speak from a heterosexual male's point of view, Christina Applegate was like top 5 crushes of my first 20 years of my life. And I mean, she looks amazing in this movie in every scene, and that is not unnoticed.
Amy?
I just think it was fun. I don't know why people, like, I always say, like, when you see a movie when you're impressionable, then it just kind of lasts a little bit longer, like, or that it remains in your, in your brain. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Just trying to put myself in the mindset of someone who had watched it all along since the early 90s. What I saw was this thing got compared unfavorably and unfairly to Home Alone. But Home Alone is a cartoon with live humans, and it doesn't really deal with the overwhelming majority of the stuff that this movie deals with. The whole, again, the cat's away, the mouse will play stuff, which is only a very small part of this movie. And it's almost like, if I felt like Home Alone was for kids, and I wanted a version of that was more pointed towards myself as a teenager or even a young adult, I would gravitate to this. And I would say, this is giving me that, right? Like that feeling of like kids on the cusp of growing up, trying to figure out how to make it on their own and take care of themselves. And that, I think, is kind of the reason you root for Sue Ellen so much, is you want her to succeed at that. The world has put every obstacle in front of her in terms of trying to make that hard, and this really lovable character triumphs over that. And that, I think that it's just really, like, again, that warm, fuzzy feeling you get from this movie is not, you don't get that from Home Alone. Like, there are some warm, fuzzy feelings to be had from Home Alone, but they're a different species of warm, fuzzy feeling. So I really think that's what has kept this movie alive for a lot of people. At least that's certainly what I took from it when I watched it.
Yeah, and like similar to Clueless, I feel like when I look back at this movie, it takes me back to a very specific time in my life that some other movies capture a little bit of, but for me, this captures it better than anything that I've ever seen.
Any final thoughts on Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead?
No, this is just really fun to do.
Oh, Joanna Cassidy played Zahora, or Zora, however it's pronounced, in Blade Runner.
Thank God. All right. And I still don't remember who that character is in Blade Runner, and I've seen it a few times. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for dropping on this. This was a great episode. It was a treat to go to this blind spot and fill it in. I'm sure we'll watch it again at some point, because I sure enjoyed the heck out of it. Yeah. So, Amy, where can people find you online to find the cool things you do?
Well, if you're interested in finding me online, you can find my earring business at Momo Bunnies More Co. on Instagram or TikTok.
And, of course, the Etsy store itself.
Sure. Momo and Bunnies More clay earrings.
Yep. And Rich, where can people find you?
If you're interested in improv classes, workshops, in person or online from anywhere in the world, go to richbakercoaching.com.
And if you like this show, of course, go online, drop it a review or a star rating, anything to show some love for it, and tell friends and get them to watch it. If you have feedback on Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead or our recent episodes on Rugrats and the Beatles and a few others, please send that feedback to @NostalgiumPod on Twitter or just find Nostalgium Arcanum on Instagram. We've got some cool stuff coming up. We haven't quite mapped out where it's all going to be yet, but there's discussion of doing an episode on Rocky. We want to do one on Gargoyles. That's going to come up, I hope, soon. And, of course, Rich, you and I talked about doing Homestar Runner.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be excellent for both of us to annoy people with our voices.
Holy crap.
We're not going to hold back on that one. Sorry, folks. Anyway, so that's what's coming up relatively soon. Among other things, there's been some discussion doing Batman 89, so I'm hoping we do that too. Yeah. So, until next time, that is one more entry in the Nostalgium Arcanum.
Wreaking havoc throughout the studio, Scratch and Sniff, and I won't have it! In order for a studio to run efficiently, there must be order, calmness, control. The Warner Brothers have taken the calmness and replaced it with chaos. They're too zany, Scratch and Sniff. I haven't been this upset since we made Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And I have chosen you to get the Warner Brothers under control.
Why me?
Because you're a psychiatrist, dummy.
Oh. Winona Ryder, going inside her.